So I don't normally stress out over a flight or an airline booking, but you know what they say, there's a first time for everything. Today, we're flying the Magic School, but I mean Spirit Airlines from Tampa to Chicago on the Airbus A320neo. Now, just like Frontier, Spirit recently announced massive changes to its pricing strategy that will seriously benefit the consumer. Today, however, it's the classic Spirit Airlines experience on the way back to Illinois. Good morning from Tampa's Airside C, where I've just come in on Breeze Airways and need to change over to Airside A for this next flight on Spirit. Tampa Airport consists of 4 airsides with a future 5th one, Airside D, opening in the next couple of years to better serve international carriers. Changing terminals in Tampa requires first taking the airport train back into the main central hub, then catching another train to the next airside. It's kind of an inconvenient process, especially considering you have to re-clear security in each airside, but then again, most people flying to Tampa aren't connecting, so you really can't complain here. Also, Tampa is a rather efficient airport. The whole process from getting off my previous flight, changing terminals, and clearing security in Airside A took around 15 minutes. This would have been great because I was only supposed to have an hour in between flights, but as soon as I landed in Tampa, I realized that my next flight to Chicago was delayed by an hour. Now, I really didn't mind having that extra time because now that I was in the right terminal, I could get some lunch and relax a bit. Credit to Spirit though, because we did receive an email notifying us of the flight's delay. So now let's circle back to what I said in the intro about stressing out over an airline booking. I booked this flight primarily using credit that I received back in March when Spirit delayed my Orlando-Atlanta flight by 2 hours. So you can imagine my surprise when I checked my booking confirmation only to see in bold red wording that my payment was not successfully processed. I then ended up calling Spirit and speaking with an agent to sort the details out, which was actually a rather helpful, pleasant, and quick process. It turns out that my payment was successful all along and that it was just an error on Spirit's end. But then fast forward to around the week before the flight, Hurricane Debbie was hitting Florida right around August 5th when I was supposed to take this trip originally. As a precaution, I changed my travel date to the 9th, which ended up being a good decision in retrospect because the flight on August 5th was cancelled. So when August 8th rolled around and it was time for online check-in, I thought I was all set. But then I looked at my boarding pass. What do you mean it's not a boarding pass? And despite the fact that I had pre-booked a seat during booking, that wasn't showing up either. For this, I ended up contacting Spirit via WhatsApp and I ended up waiting around 30 to 45 minutes before I could speak with an agent. Turns out this was another issue on Spirit's end, so once that was all resolved, I received my corrected boarding pass and somehow $16 of flight credit. Now of course, Spirit never specified the reason for our flight's delay, but after looking around, it wasn't very hard to see what was causing it. At the adjacent gate was a flight to Baltimore that was delayed 5 hours. At this point, Hurricane Debbie was hitting the East Coast, so any flights going there were heavily disrupted. On top of that, Spirit is dealing with an aircraft shortage as currently 19 A320neos are grounded over Pratt & Whitney engine issues that I've covered in a previous video. The aircraft shortage meant there was no aircraft to operate the Baltimore flight until literally 30 minutes earlier when this A320 that you saw taxiing in a few minutes ago was ferried in from Orlando. The ground crew had to service this aircraft first and get it out to Baltimore before they could board our flight, so all of these factors that I just mentioned are more or less why we were delayed. With that, November 905 November Kilo is our A320neo today. It's one of the older examples in the fleet and in fact was the 5th A320neo delivered to Spirit. Now historically, being a budget airline, Spirit used to separately charge passengers to bring a carry-on or checked bag on board. However, just like Frontier, who I covered recently, Spirit followed suit and introduced some monumental changes to its pricing. They are basically the exact same bundles as Frontier, but now for just $30 or so extra from the basic ticket fare, you could book a Spirit ticket that includes either a carry-on or checked bag and seat selection, and the perks increase with the ticket price. Now, I booked this trip before Spirit officially implemented these changes, but I thought it was still worth mentioning. I'll definitely try to cover it in a future video though. Spirit's A320neo has 182 seats with 8 of the big front seats and 174 in standard economy. This afternoon, I'm in 28A, and do you really need to see this seat? Again, I've covered it so many times. Here's the puny tray table. This is a pathetic excuse for a seat pocket, and then the seat pitch is 28 inches, which is fine at first if you're under 6 feet, but definitely starts to feel cramped as the flight goes on.
Exits are clearly marked with exit signs, directions for opening, and are equipped with evacuation slides. Overhead signs and aisle path lighting lead to all exits. Please check and tighten by pulling on the ends. Secure your own mask before helping others. Oxygen will be flowing to the mask, even though the bag may not inflate. In the unlikely event of a water landing,
before we're in the air. We thank you so much and welcome aboard.
Ladies and gentlemen from the flight deck, your captain speaking. My name is Alejandro, your first officer, Patrick. And the rest of the crew want to welcome you aboard flight from Stop Service to Chicago.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, my daughter was a lot of that. Yeah, she used to her school for different television. She's extremely bipolar. And she went to meditation and Pilates and yoga.
She was originally a 4C, so
rest of the flight was just like you'd expect on Spirit. I decided not to purchase any Wi-Fi or refreshments and surprisingly slept through the first hour or so, waking up right as we flew over Atlanta and the world's busiest airport. It was also here when I noticed whatever junk this was on the back of my seat, looking like some old gum and whatever this was. Small stuff like this doesn't bother me a whole lot, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I completely forgot that the Chicago Air and Water Show was happening on the same weekend, which made our arrival a little bit more interesting.
As soon as we get the green light, we'll be driving to Chicago, and we're one of the first ones in line, so we don't anticipate any further delays aside from that. So that's all we got for you right now. Since we know something more, we'll get back with you. But for now, we'll be here for probably another 10-15 minutes. Just 100 miles outside of Chicago once again, but we are heading in the right direction. So that puts us on the ground in approximately 25 minutes. Fair weather in Chicago, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Clear skies, partly cloud, clear skies, good visibility, and wind talking to the west at 10 miles per hour. I'd like to take this time to thank you for flying with Spirit, and we appreciate your patience earlier. We'll see you on the ground.
Whenever the air show was going on, O'Hare made all arrivals use runways 22 left and 22 right, which usually never happens unless it's a super windy day. I was really hoping we'd also get assigned those runways, but unfortunately the air show wrapped up for the day by the time we came in, so it was the usual approach for runway 27 center. The base fare for this flight was around $42, but seat selection and various taxes brought the total to $74. I had $61 worth of credits from my Spirit flights in March, which I applied to this trip, meaning I had around $13 left to pay. However, I also added travel insurance for an additional $18, meaning my total for this flight was around $31. The flight itself, as you saw, was the usual Spirit experience, and the only reason I chose Spirit this time was to use my flight credits before they expired. Like I've mentioned before, these budget airlines are never my first choice, but only if the price is right will I ever consider them. Now that Spirit is adding ticket bundles just like Frontier, it makes them a lot more competitive to the full-service carriers. Of course, I'd have to fly Spirit again to cover this massive change, and I'm sure I will very soon given they gave me some more flight credit from this trip. So here we are, welcome to Chicago, and thank you very much for tuning in. I'm now headed downtown to catch an Amtrak train back to Springfield, which ended up being a rather eventful journey, so stay tuned because that video is coming soon. If you enjoy my work, check out the description for ways that you can support the channel, as I don't earn anything from my videos. But anyway, that does it for today, so take care everyone, and see you next time.